Looking for a degree program that rewards you for what you already know? At WGU, all of our bachelor's and master's programs are competency-based, allowing you to progress at your own pace. Washingtonians know how valuable time and money are, and so do we. At WGU, your hard work and experience can help you finish your degree faster and for less. Join a community of driven professionals from across the DMV who are unlocking new career opportunities today. See how your knowledge can give you an edge at wgu.edu.
Good afternoon, folks. We are doing it live right here, Mottek On Money, 790 KBC. Serious business to get right to this afternoon here, and we're going to do that right now, streaming live online worldwide at kbc.com, and your on-demand Mottek On Money podcast, kbc.com, Apple, iTunes, YouTube, all of your favorite podcast platforms. Stocks moving higher today with the NASDAQ Composite and the S&P 500 closing in at the highest levels we've seen since February, putting both indexes within range of new all-time highs. The Dow came in for a closing gain today of 507 points at 43,089. The S&P 500 up 67 to 6,092, and the NASDAQ gained nearly 300 points at 19,912. The volatility index did slip today by 12%. The price of gold moving a bit higher right now, of $2.50 at $3,336.40 an ounce. Crude oil futures moving a bit higher now, up 73 cents at $65.10 a barrel. The cryptos also rebounded impressively. All this coming on optimism growing around a U.S. brokered ceasefire between Israel and Iran, raising hopes for a more lasting end to the serious hostilities in the Middle East. Also, the Fed Chairman Jerome Powell appeared before Congress today on Capitol Hill, where he signaled the Fed could cut interest rates sooner rather than later, while maintaining flexibility to wait and assess potential inflationary impact of President Trump's tariffs. The NASDAQ Composite led the gains today, so we saw a pretty decent rally among the Mag 7 names. We're going to talk about that here in just a moment. Now, this relief rally coming just about 24 hours after President Trump announced a ceasefire between Iran and Israel. Israel confirmed it agreed to a truce brokered by the U.S. and announced by the president late yesterday. But just hours later, Israel accused Iran of breaking that ceasefire deal. The president lashed out at both sides, though the fragile truce ultimately appeared to hold up for the time being. And it was a nervous day, but looks like it's holding. Oil prices continued to move lower on the prospects of a lasting ceasefire or truce between Israel and Iran, easing concerns about a disruption to the supply of crude oil centered around the possibility that Iran could block the Strait of Hormuz, which, of course, is a major choke point for oil tankers potentially, but has not been closed. It remains open. Brent and West Texas Intermediate oil futures both moved levels seen before the outbreak of the conflict between Israel and Iran. We're going to be taking a closer look at all of the latest news from the Middle East. I'll be speaking live later this hour with Richard Sandler, prominent attorney here in Los Angeles and prominent Jewish leader worldwide, part of the Milken Institute here in Southern California, executive vice president, secretary, and trustee of the Milken Family Foundation, who served as chair of the board of trustees of the Jewish Federations of North America and former chair of the Jewish Federation of Greater Los Angeles, also author of the book Witness to a Prosecution, The Myth of Michael Milken. Richard Sandler will be joining us live later this hour. Interesting to see the crypto stocks surging today. CNBC reported that 2 Republican senators are planning to debut the framework for a major bill defining the regulation of cryptocurrencies. Strategy, MSTR is the ticker symbol on that one, the largest corporate holder of Bitcoin, jumped 3.5%, while crypto trading platforms Coinbase and Robinhood soared today. Bitcoin miners also jumped. Riot Platforms and Mara Holdings also moved nicely higher. We'll be taking a closer look at those names here coming up very, very shortly. In the meantime, we saw the Fed Chairman Jerome Powell on Capitol Hill today, said a good case could be made for cutting interest rates soon. He said the Fed is holding off for now because of an expected increase in inflation from U.S. trade wars. In a semi-annual testimony to Congress, Fed Chairman Powell was repeatedly pressed by Republicans to explain why the Fed is not cutting rates now, and they pointed to a relatively low rate of U.S. inflation and noted that central banks around the world have cut their own borrowing costs. On the economy, construction of new homes fell nearly 10% in the month of May. Builders pulling back amid waning demand from home buyers. Housing starts fell to 1.26 million from 1.39 million the previous month, and the annual pace referring to how many homes would be built over an entire year if May's rate of construction were to continue. Well, for now, it looks like a pretty bullish mood continues on Wall Street. And here in Los Angeles, though, major concerns about the current financial situation of the City of Angels. The LA City Council, this is breaking news here, folks, approving a resolution this afternoon declaring a state of fiscal emergency in response to decreased revenue and rising liabilities. In a 14-0 vote, council members signed off on the resolution, which is the subject of approval of Mayor Bass. The declaration authorizes Los Angeles to move forward with actions for fiscal year 25-26 to address a roughly $1 billion deficit. We'll talk about that later this hour with the Honorable Dennis ZINE, former LA City Council member, who will be joining us live on the line this afternoon. But first on your money, the markets, the economy, Tesla's robot taxis, too. Joining us live now, Daniel Ives, Managing Director and Global Head of Technology Research at Wedbush Securities, headquartered in Southern California. Daniel Ives, thank you very much for taking the call here this afternoon.
Great to be here.
Wonderful to have you with us. First of all, your reaction to the epic news over the past weekend. Of course, the news cycle seems to have gone to every 10 minutes these days. Daniel Ives, give us your reaction and your reaction to the market reaction we've seen in the last couple of days.
I mean, look, when Saturday night once the B-2 bombers were successful, I viewed it as bullish because it took out the biggest black swan event that could happen. That was Iran with nuclear, capabilities. And I think what the market's digesting now is a weakened Iran with no nuclear and now a ceasefire. And Frank, that's about as bullish a scenario as you can get. And I believe this really means that, we're going to see new highs for the market, new highs for tech going into the summer.
On there live with Daniel Ives from Wedbush here on Mottek On Money on 790 KABC. It looks like in all this, the interest-sensitive tech names had a pretty good day. The Fed chairman also in focus today on Capitol Hill. Anything that you took away from his testimony which impacted the markets today?
Look, I think overall, it's a risk-on day. I mean, risk-on for tech across the board, and I think that's what you saw. But I think, look, Powell clearly not cutting right now, but you read through the tea leaves, I still think, we're going to get 1-2 cuts this year. And that's a positive. And I think it's one where his language, the market's reading it, is slightly starting to get a little more dovish.
All right, and in all this, speaking of risk-off, cryptos have seen quite a wild ride in the last couple of days with Bitcoin, I believe, cracking below 100,000, now close to 106,000 once again, and what, about 6K away from its all-time high. I know you follow the cryptos, too, so what are your thoughts about that action and also the latest moves in the crypto-related stocks we saw today?
Yeah, I mean, at one point on Sunday afternoon, crypto is like under 98. Okay, right? I mean, because that's why you always have to make sure the catastrophists, especially when these things happen, they don't really cause a sort of alarm. That's what happened on Sunday. We've had a huge rally back, and I think this is bullish for crypto, bullish for Bitcoin in terms of the risk-on trade. And I think it's one where you're going to see investors just continuing to increase that risk appetite as we go into the second half of the year.
All right, let's get to some more of the exciting stuff here. Tesla has seen a wild ride this week, too. Up big yesterday, pulling back a bit today on the rollout of the robo-taxis, which I understand you had a chance to check out. What was your experience in the robo-taxi?
Looking for a degree program that rewards you for what you already know? At WGU, all of our bachelor's and master's programs are competency-based, allowing you to progress at your own pace. Washingtonians know how valuable time and money are, and so do we. At WGU, your hard work and experience can help you finish your degree faster and for less. Join a community of driven professionals from across the DMV who are unlocking new career opportunities today. See how your knowledge can give you an edge at wgu.edu.
Former U.S. Navy SEAL Sean Ryan captures real stories about sacrifice and strength.
We go into this hooch searching for Christ knows what.
Regardless if anybody else does it, will you do it?
There's a lot of things that are hurtful and disturbing.
Can't get anybody to talk about it.
Uncovering truth with the heroes who live to tell it.
There's a saying, there's no atheist in a foxhole.
That was the hardest part for you coming home.
Was.
How'd you get through it?
I worked hard.
The Sean Ryan Show.
You ready?
Let's do it.
All right, let's go.
Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
Yeah, hopefully we could get you in one of those soon. I know, and it's look, I think this is the future. And when you think about anyone that's been in a Waymo, which are obviously great, Waymo are in 4 cities, and they're $230,000 cars. I think everything that we saw in our 2 15-minute rides in Austin, great maneuverability, safety was high, never had any concerns, and I thought a very, very smooth ride. And they were even able to go, we went on some dirt road paths, a cat came across, it stopped for that. So I was very impressed with the initial ride in the robotaxi.
All right. Well, it stops for cats, so that you got me on that one. So that's good. That's a good thing. And so, anything else? I guess yours didn't veer into the wrong lane. I guess there was a video of that being shown yesterday. So you had a smooth and good experience.
It was really smooth. And look, if you look at it's geofenced, the range. I mean, I think that they're actually increasing it, by the day. So again, it's going to be highlighted. Any video is going to be highlighted. In terms of my team personally, was in the robotaxi. Super impressive experience. I'd say going in, we thought it would be an 8 of 10. I'd say it was a 10 of 10. And look, in our whole bull case view, this is going to add $1 trillion to the valuation of Tesla in terms of the autonomous. And I think in a year, 25 to 30 cities it's going to be in.
On the air live with Daniel Ives at Wedbush Securities. And what is the plan now for the robo-taxi rollout starting there in Austin, Texas? And when are we going to see these here in the Los Angeles area?
Yeah, it's going to continue to expand, in terms of in Austin, that geofenced area. I think you'll start to see it potentially in San Francisco and some other cities as we go into fall. I mean, I'd be surprised if you do not see this in Los Angeles by year end.
Now, these vehicles don't look like the Waymos, right? They don't have all of that equipment on the top and on the sides and this radar type device. It looks like a normal vehicle, right?
A normal vehicle. And then remember the golden goose, next year they start producing the cyber cabs. And that's the next-gen vehicle, and that's the future. I mean, look, it's my view. When it comes to AI, physical AI, NVIDIA, Tesla are really the leaders when it comes to physical AI. And this is the future in terms of cyber cabs. I think Tesla is really going to own that market.
And as far as the cost, I understand it's less expensive to take a Waymo here in L.A. than it is to take an Uber or a Lyft, by the way. I just heard that anecdotally this week. And what about how are they doing that in Austin there for the robo-taxi rollout? Are they already charging, or is it strictly on a
well, they're
test
charging a flat. It's a flat fee, and you'll like the number at $4.20. $4.20 is the flat fee. Obviously, that's a Musk number.
Yeah.
But I think as this all gets rolled out, it's basically going to be in between an Uber X and when you take like an Uber Black service, like Uber Black car. So it's going to kind of be in that sweet spot as it starts to roll out. But here's the one thing, Brian, is that when you get in these vehicles, it automatically syncs with your phone, your playlist, Netflix, it's all in the vehicle. So that's the other thing. It's about a customized, personalized experience, the way that these are actually going to be deployed.
Wow, that's something that's interesting, and it sounds like it impressed you. And what about Tesla stock? It's at $340 here today, down about $8. Where do you see Tesla stock go from here?
I think 500, and that's conservative. I mean, we believe as the autonomous and the True Vision plays out, this could be a $600 stock.
All right, NVIDIA, has had a nice comeback this year as well, up nearly 4 today, I see here, just shy of 148. What do you see for NVIDIA here now?
I mean, I think it's going to have a 2 in front of it because, I mean, my view is there's only one chip in the world fueling the AI revolution, as me and you've talked about many times. It's NVIDIA. And it's led by Godfather of AI, Jensen, NVIDIA. And if you look now, as more and more companies deploy from NVIDIA, from Microsoft, this is going to fuel just chip demand. Right now, demand to supply for their chips is 10 to 1. 10 to 1.
On the Air Live with Dan Ives from Wedbush, and Netflix continues to impress here, up another 26 today to 1279, at or near its all-time high. Right? What about Netflix here?
I mean, minimal churn, price increases continue to go through, and look, content's king. And I think the thing here too is that they're going to continue to increase on the advertising front, and that the monetization there. I mean, that's a whole nother sort of leg that I don't think is really being priced into Netflix when you think about the advertising piece and even the international side.
All right, and then Microsoft is still the most valuable company, right? Has blown past NVIDIA and at or near its all-time high here. Microsoft continues to impress, and this at a time, by the way, where a lot of analysts are souring on the Mag 7. What about Microsoft and your overall view of the Mag 7 names here now?
Look, the haters are going to hate. You can't let them get you down. I mean, we are in the beginning of what I've talked about as a 3 to 5 year tech bull cycle. But the problem with the haters, they can't see AI in their spreadsheets. And I think when you look at Microsoft, that's another one. Street is still massively underestimating the growth ahead, which is why we're bullish not just on Microsoft, but overall on Mag 7.
Interesting that a lot of the earnings reports didn't even mention AI, in the last year or two even?
Look, when you think about who's leading AI, it's NVIDIA, Microsoft, Palantir, Tesla, and of course OpenAI and others. But I'm just saying, it's a fourth industrial revolution that we just happen to be living in.
All right, with so much attention focused, of course, on the Middle East, Tel Aviv, of course, that market hit a record high since the hostilities broke out between Israel and Iran. So we're watching what's happening there. So the bullish mood continues here. What's your reaction to the Israeli stock market hitting a record high this week and your outlook for this market here?
I mean, look, you're talking about one of the hubs of technology globally. And what was the biggest risk to Israel, biggest risk to a lot of Israeli stocks is Iran. It's a weakened Iran, no nuclear. I mean, at the end of the day, that's bullish not just in terms of stocks in Israel. It's bullish for the Middle East because it's our view. It's a golden age in the Middle East as you're seeing more and more. There's a focus on AI technology, and we saw that in Saudi. I've seen that in UAE. I've seen it myself. And I think that's a huge positive for the region.
Oil names have come under pressure as the price of oil is pulled back below 70, right now hovering around 65 a barrel in New York. And the big oil names have put some downward pressure on the Dow, certainly. ExxonMobil lower, Chevron lower. Might those be a drag on the overall market? And what do you see ahead for those names?
Yeah, I don't see that because I think as oil probably dips below 60, that's a positive relative to inflationary. In terms of obviously deflationary, it's positive for the consumer, puts more money in the pocket. And, and I think, some of those names could have headwinds, but overall that's bullish for the market and bullish for risk on.
Anything else that's getting your attention, Daniel Ives, and any other specific places where you are putting money now and or taking it off the table?
I just think right now this is a risk-on market. There's no two ways about it. And I think when you look, you just don't get caught up in the headlines and some, ceasefire and how long. The reality is that from a market perspective, relative to some of the overhang with Iran, that's done. And I think it's a huge positive for the market and risk-on and new highs for the rest of the year.
Daniel Ives, Managing Director and Global Head of Technology Research at Wedbush Securities, headquartered right here in Southern California. Daniel, always a great pleasure to have you with us here. Thank you very much for coming to the line here this afternoon.
Thank you, and we'll see you in one of those robo-taxis soon. Thank you.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Thank you very much. And now to the freeways we go now on 790 KBC. 790 KBC. Good afternoon. We saw a rally on Wall Street today as optimism grew around a U.S. brokered ceasefire between Israel and Iran, which appears to be holding here at the moment. The Dow coming in for a closing gain of 507 points at 43,089. The S&P 500 of 67 at 6,092. And the NASDAQ of 281 at 19,912. The volatility index pulling back today by 12%. Tesla pulling into reverse today, down to more than $8 at $340 and change. NVIDIA moving higher, up nearly $4 at $147 and change. Netflix up nearly $26 today, another pop there at $1,279 and change. Microsoft up more than $4 to $490 and change. Oil names pulling back as the price of oil has retreated to around $65 a barrel after that spike over the weekend. We see oil right now moving up 73 cents to $65.10 a barrel in after-hours trading. Oil company stocks moving lower. ExxonMobil down more than 3 at 108 and change. Looks like Chevron also pulling back. The cryptos rallying. Bitcoin up more than 400 now, back to 105,849. Ethereum up 20 at 2,434. And Doge at 16 cents. And now the latest news here in 790 KBC. Mottek On Money continues here, 790 KBC. Saw the price of oil move lower today after President Trump announced a ceasefire between Israel and Iran, then lashing out this morning at both countries for attacks that put the truce at risk. But right now the ceasefire appears to be holding. Fast-moving developments in the Middle East. Today, Israel's Prime Minister Netanyahu claimed an historic victory, saying, in his words, "We sent Iran's nuclear program down the drain." This 24 hours after President Trump announced Israel and Iran agreed on a complete and total ceasefire after the U.S. joined Israel in attacking Iran's nuclear sites over the weekend with devastating bunker-busting bombs delivered by B-2 stealth bombers flown over Iran from the United States. Today, President Trump wrote on social media, Israel is not going to attack Iran. All planes will turn around and head home while doing a friendly plane wave, in his words, to Iran. Nobody will be hurt. The ceasefire is in effect, he wrote. Earlier, the president urged Israel to stop its strikes on Iran after Tel Aviv accused Tehran of breaching the truce that had gone into effect just hours earlier. Meanwhile, we're following the latest reports from Israel. The Home Front Command there has lifted all restrictions on civilians. Schools in Israel set to reopen tomorrow. Israel also has reopened skies for air travel. Joining us live now to discuss these epic developments in the Middle East is Richard Sandler, Executive Vice President, Secretary and Trustee of the Milken Family Foundation, who served as Chair of the Board of Trustees of the Jewish Federations of North America and the former Chair of the Jewish Federation of Greater Los Angeles. Also author of the book, Witness to a Prosecution, The Myth of Michael Milken. Richard Sandler, thank you very much for coming to the line on all these epic developments here.
Well, thank you, Frank, for having me. I look forward to our conversation.
Thank you very much for taking the call. First of all, your reaction to what's happened here with Iran's nuclear program, according to President Trump, being obliterated.
Well, my reaction is very, very positive. I think that the entire free world is in better shape today than it was a week ago. I think the fact that you had such close coordination between two very, very staunch allies in carrying out these activities over the last 10 days, and especially what the United States was able to accomplish on Saturday, is very historic. And I think, as I said, the world's a safer place today because of it.
It appears the ceasefire is holding here at the moment following the exchange of missiles in the last 24 hours. What reports are you getting from Israel now?
Pretty much the same as yours, Frank. I think the ceasefire is holding. I think there's every interest on Israel's part for there to be a ceasefire. Obviously, with all the victories and all the positive news that came out of there over the last week and a half, having rockets, even if it was less than 10 or 5% of those that were fired at Israel, getting through, causing damage, unfortunate loss of life and injury, is not good for Israel or its people. So if they can have a ceasefire and keep the gains that have been achieved here in the last week, I think that's positive, and I think that there's every intent on Israel's part to complying with the terms of the ceasefire.
While Iran's nuclear program may have been decimated, the same regime that's been shouting death to Israel, death to America for 40 plus years is still in place. What do you see ahead for this regime here?
Well, this is where you get really complicated because there's a lot of talk about regime change, and regime change can only come from the inside.
Looking for a degree program that rewards you for what you already know? At WGU, all of our bachelor's and master's programs are competency-based, allowing you to progress at your own pace. Washingtonians know how valuable time and money are, and so do we. At WGU, your hard work and experience can help you finish your degree faster and for less. Join a community of driven professionals from across the DMV who are unlocking new career opportunities today. See how your knowledge can give you an edge at wgu.edu.
Bravo TV star Lala Kent holds nothing back.
I think the boundaries are getting a little unboundaried, but that's fine.
From relationships,
it's grabbing coffee with your friends. That is
right up my alley.
Right?
To business and beyond.
Where there's history, true friendships, but it's fine. I've also been a rat. I'm obsessed with her. I hate her. Literally the exact same feeling.
If you really want to party,
you have to have the perfect combination.
Give them Lala. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
Yet, I don't think a lot of people that talk about it really know what it means. It's very complicated. If there's regime change, what will the change be? Could it be something? It could be something worse than there is now. But in Iran, you have a very sophisticated populace, very well educated, very well versed in the ways of the West. But you have different groups. You have the Kurds, you have the Azeris, you have the Balochis, then you have Persians. And if there is a regime change, you would want it to be peaceful with everybody working towards a positive goal. But I think the chances of that happening in a positive way are certainly much greater for a country like Iran than it was for Afghanistan or Iraq.
On the air live with prominent Los Angeles attorney Richard Sandler, and certainly the Jewish community here following all of this very, very closely and supporting various groups in Israel that responded, of course, to the October 7th, 2023 terror attack by Hamas, and that war continues, right? What is happening on that front?
Well, I think it hasn't gotten as much attention, but I know that Israeli troops, why they are dealing with what they're dealing with is Iran have continued to operate in Gaza, try to take out terrorists, try to find the hostages, and at the same time, I think Israel has been very open to working with the United States on that issue too, and others, to see can there be a ceasefire that does not allow Hamas to reconstitute itself and frees up those hostages. I think it's very important to Israelis and to people around the world to see these hostages be freed. It's really almost hard to even conceptualize what it's been like for them as they have remained in captivity now since October of 2023.
That is horrific and unthinkable, and certainly the Jewish community here has been very active in supporting Israel in a variety of ways. United Hatzalah, for example, the emergency organization there in Israel, which responded and actually lost people on October 7th, has been heavily supported here in Los Angeles. You want to tell us about that and some other ways that people here can support the folks there?
Well, I think, United Hatzalah has done a wonderful job in coming to people's aid with medical attention, in Israel. I know they had a major event in New York in the last couple of weeks. I know some people from Los Angeles that went to it. But I think, if you go, people here that really care and want to make a difference, go to the JFedLA website, which is the Jewish Federation here, which allocates funds through Jewish federations in North America and other organizations to see that it goes to the people that need it right away, the people that need medical aid, the people that need trauma care, and the people whose businesses and whose homes have been disrupted. So I think those are a couple avenues where people could be very supportive.
On there live with Richard Sandler, and certainly the Middle East, as it always has been a big subject of discussion at the Milken Institute Global Conference. You moderated some very important discussions, things that looks like we're going to need another conference soon, right? So much has changed just in the last month or so.
It is definitely a fluid situation. We stay on top of these things year-round, not just at the conference, but the Milken Institute does numerous conferences around the world in the course of a year. We do have a conference coming up in the Middle East at the end of the year, as we've done for the last several years. But, there's a lot of organizations that are on top of this and putting out information every day that is very, very helpful as they analyze a difficult situation, but are very, very supportive of both the activities of the Trump administration in supporting what Israel's doing, because as you and I talked about this just recently, there is in Iran and in the present government of Iran's view, two main Satans in the world, right? The large and the small, and that's Israel and the United States, because they are against our way of life. They are against the West and how we operate, and we have to be very aware of that and be very supportive of all the activities that have been taken over the last couple of years. The last couple of weeks to make such a huge difference in that area.
Mr. Sandler, thank you very much for taking the call here this afternoon. We'll keep an open line to you on all of these developments which continue to unfold. Richard Sandler, Executive Vice President, Secretary and Trustee of the Milken Family Foundation, who served as Chair of the Board of Trustees of the Jewish Federations of North America, as well as the former Chair of the Jewish Federation of Greater Los Angeles, also author of the book Witness to a Prosecution, The Myth of Michael Milken. Thank you very much for taking the call here this afternoon.
Well, thanks for reaching out, Frank. I look forward to continuing these conversations.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And we'll continue here in just a moment, live here in 790 KABC. Frank Mottek here for United Gold Group. Did you know that for more than 10,000 years, gold has been the greatest store of value and considered a safe haven asset to preserve your wealth? Well, now the U.S. debt of more than $36 trillion and climbing, a possible recession on the horizon, and the development of the digital dollar, central bank digital currency, it's more critical now than ever before to safeguard your assets, like your cash savings and retirement accounts, with physical gold. Opening a gold IRA is one of the best ways to secure your wealth and create a stable financial future. Stop worrying about your retirement in the market and cash savings in the bank. Feel confident, prepared, and in control with physical gold and, yes, silver. Give my friends at United Gold Group a call right now. The number is 800-753-8534. Mention Mottek, and you can get $1,000 worth of silver with a qualifying purchase. Call now, 800-753-8534, or visit UnitedGoldGroup.com. Mottek On Money continues here, 790 KABC. Close to home, a fiscal emergency. The LA City Council today approving a resolution declaring a state of fiscal emergency in response to decreased revenue and rising liabilities here in the city of Los Angeles. It was a 14-0 vote. City Council members signing off on this resolution, which still has to be approved by Mayor Bass, I see here. The declaration authorizes the city to move ahead with actions for the new fiscal year to address a roughly $1 billion hole in the city's budget. That includes plans to lay off more than 600 city employees and reduce an allocation of about $4.2 million to the Public Matching Campaign Trust Fund, among other things. Someone who knows all about this very, very closely is the Honorable Dennis ZINE, former Los Angeles City Council member, longtime LAPD sergeant, still a reserve officer with something like 56 years of service to the City of Angels. Dennis ZINE is on the line with us now. Good afternoon, Dennis ZINE.
Good afternoon, Frank, to you and all your wonderful listeners. And I've got great news for the taxpayers of the City of Los Angeles. July 2nd to July 29th, your LA City Council is going to go on summer recess. They won't be here for the month of July, which is interesting since they declared today this huge deficit. And July 1st starts the new fiscal year, and they're going to be on summer recess from July 2nd to July 29th, the summer recess for the LA City Council. They won't be here to worry about the situation or the problem that we, the taxpayers, have to deal with every single day. How about that, Frank, for good news?
We need some good news. Dennis ZINE on the line with us here now. What does this fiscal emergency mean to Mr. and Mrs. Los Angeles? What did the City Council just do here, and what impact will it have on the lives of Mr. and Mrs. Los Angeles?
Well, the city will run. I don't know how efficient it will run, but it will run. But instead of dealing with this situation, which is critical when you're short that amount of money, you go on vacation from the 2nd of July to the 29th of July. It's like they announce it today, and then they're going to go on vacation. So who's going to handle it? They're not going to be in town to worry about it. Someone else is going to just go by and bump along the highway. So what we have is a city general manager in different departments that they're going to continue to be paid. This is not going to get resolved because there's no time to resolve it between now and July 2nd. So it really leaves a big window of opportunity. Where are you going to find the money? Who are you going to lay off? When are you going to lay off? People who call the police, they know there's a delay because they don't have operators. We know there's a shortage of police officers. The mismanagement of the city has become critical. And I find it interesting that this afternoon I received a call for a $40,000 grant. If I want to put an ADU, additional dwelling unit, on my residence, I can get a grant for $40,000, free $40,000, as long as I comply and put in additional dwelling on my residence. I'm saying, I thought the state's broke. Well, the city's broke. And they come up with these wild programs. I don't know how they fund it when there's no money. But the bottom line is, the city of Los Angeles, with that kind of deficit, you'd think they would stay in town to try and figure out a solution. Some cuts here, some cuts there, but they're scheduled July 2nd for a month to go on vacation. So the answer is not going to be coming forward shortly. It's going to be a while. But the controller has put these numbers out. They're frightening numbers on how people are going to get the service that they deserve and that they're paying for. I think what you're going to find down the road, increased taxes for all types of city services that we have, whether it's the street lights, the sanitation, the water and power, whatever case it'll be, we're going to see increased taxes in the city of Los Angeles. That's for sure, as far as I can estimate from the deficits that they have in the city right now.
On the line with Dennis ZINE, the Honorable Dennis ZINE, former LA City Council member. So decreased revenue and rising liabilities, that seems to have been the case for quite some time now. I remember having conversations with former Mayor Richard J. Riordan, who, following his time in office, had suggested that LA City government file bankruptcy sooner rather than later due to unfunded liabilities and so forth. How serious is the city's budget situation now with a roughly $1 billion deficit, and of course coming off the firestorm emergency, and that's got to be impacting tax revenue, income, and so forth. What do you see ahead for the city's financial situation?
The city's financial situation is pretty bleak. In the recent situation they had with the demonstrations and shutting down the freeways, et cetera, that's a $32 million hit on the city, a $32 million hit because of the expenditure of resources, whether it be the LAPD that was mobilized. People think tactical means you're going to hold them over the watch. Mobilization means everybody's going to be days off canceled. Everyone, including detectives, is going to be in uniform. Now, mobilization is very, very rare. But when you go to mobilization, that's a very expensive venture that you have to pay for. And that bill is over $30 million for the demonstrations that we saw recently happen in downtown Los Angeles. So economically, we're in a tough situation, but I find it ironic that the council is going to go on vacation for a month, and they break this news today, just before the weekend.
That is a shock. And since you're focused also on the police department, how short are we of officers, you think, in the LAPD now?
Well, we're about 2,000 short, and the recruitment's not doing very well. I had a conversation with the chief recently. They're trying to recruit people, but again, Highway Patrol's recruiting. Everybody's recruiting. A lot of them getting bonuses to sign up, but the LAPD's in the recruiting mode. But the numbers aren't coming in. But the sheriffs are recruiting, Highway Patrol's recruiting, small departments are recruiting. And what the small departments do is they'll cherry pick from the large departments people who are upset with the department for one reason or another. They'll go to a smaller department where they receive signing bonuses, new cars, and a council and people who love you. For example, Beverly Hills. Beverly Hills chief of police used to be LAPD, and he recruits from Southern California officers from other departments. They don't have to run a police academy. They don't have to do the training because the people they get are already trained. So they pay them a nice salary, give them good benefits, nice new equipment, and they're happy to be there. So the LAPD is competing with these other agencies that offer a lot better pay compensation and a more comfortable environment to work in.
That is tough. And what about consideration for housing expenses for incoming LAPD officers? Is obviously LA is a very expensive place to live. Is there some consideration given for housing here for officers joining the LAPD?
I believe they do that in the recruit stage when you come in as a recruit, but it doesn't continue through your employment. And you mentioned the cost. It's extremely expensive to live in this area. This region is extremely expensive. As we know, the cost of living here is extreme. and a police salary is not sufficient to really provide. If you're married and you have a family, I saw a recent report. You need to make over $118,000 to afford to live in Los Angeles.
That is pretty shocking, too. Dennis ZINE on the line with us here on Mottek On Money on 790 KABC. The Honorable Dennis ZINE, former LA City Council member, longtime LAPD sergeant with something like 56 years of service to the City of Angels. Live with us here. Stay tuned now for the 790 KABC News Blitz on 790 KABC.
The United States Soccer Federation presents the U.S. Soccer Podcast.
Inside the opening 45 seconds. What a goal!
Jack McGlynn with that cannon of a left foot. Never miss a game.
What a start for the United States.
Shot for distance. What a goal! Never miss a moment.
Exquisite from the San Diegan.
Can he finish? Yes, he can!
Yeah!
The U.S. Soccer Podcast. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.